This is a presentation by Global Supply Chain Group on outsourcing logistics, part 1 of 4.
What are some of the critical mistakes people make when outsourcing logistics to 3PLs? Before asking that question, one has to remember that outsourcing is always a strategic decision. And when we talk about logistics, this make or buy decision is even more complicated. Why is that? Well, very simply because logistics is all about service. And service is all about perception. So when we buy a logistics service, we have an idea what we buy, but we don't know what we get until we experience the service. And very often, our logistic partners are working for much larger companies like IKEA or Walmart. So the question is also whether we will get sufficient attention over the life cycle of the contract we have with them. Another important point is that when you outsource logistics, you do not outsource the complete activity. Very often, you are building a solution, combining a number of building blocks like service providers, logistic carriers, forwarders, system providers, etc., including very specific technologies to build better service at a lower cost. And it's very difficult to judge up front what you get. Each solution has its pros and cons, and you only know what you get when you have put it all together. A last very important point is that logistics works a lot with subcontractors. So you have to make sure that all the parties involved have a fair margin. Because if they don't, what will happen is that this will boomerang back to you in the form of bad service. Finally, logistics is all about flawless execution. Make sure you get it right first time, because each action has a direct impact on your customers. My advice, if you want to outsource your logistics, is to follow a number of rules. The first one would be to avoid short-term costs focus and instead have a really long-term view on the service you want to get. Logistics is in fact a trade-off about what service you get at what costs. And if you focus too much on the cost-saving side, you are gambling on the sustainability and the quality of the logistics service. If you create a cutthroat cost competition, it's a short-term strategy, and eventually it will backfire because logistics has a history of having an overcapacity and undercapacity cycle, and whenever there will be demand that exceeds the supply, all your partners will defect and leave you with your problems to service the customers who treated them better than you. There is in fact only so much room for a business to give its margin away, so cutting their margin through a hard negotiation, like you would typically do in procurement, is a very short-term strategy. Once the right balance in terms of margin for all involved in the logistics chain has been reached, logistics can in reality only deliver sustainable savings via innovation, like improved collaboration and transparency. With other words, by reducing risks and unexpected costs from bad processes. And to improve bad processes and avoid unexpected costs, it's all about making the relationship better and focusing on win-win objectives with the logistic experts you work with.
Be sure to watch part 2 of Outsourcing Logistics, brought to you by Global Supply Chain Group. Know-how, network, results.